Good morning, Lisa.
Morning, Mark.
Good morning, everyone. We will just get started in a couple minutes. We'll just let everybody join. I see lots joining right now. All right, good morning, everyone. Why don't we get started? Just got a few introduction things while lots of more are coming in. We've had a record number of registrations today, which is great. Good to see. Numbers greatly increased. We probably have a few reasons for that. You may have received an email directly from NetSuite on this one, which definitely helps grow our overall user group, which is fantastic. And I think the topics today are fantastic too. So hopefully you're here to learn a bit more about reporting and analytics within and outside of NetSuite. So why don't we get started? I'm Mark Tanner. I'm one of the co-chairs for our NetSuite user group for Ontario. So again, we're primarily the GTA area, and that's where most of us are located. But we do cover all of Ontario for this user group. And because we're generally online as well, we open the borders. So if you're from other areas outside of Ontario, also welcome to today's session. All right, let's take a look at our agenda. So I'm just going through a quick welcome. We have Gavin Davidson doing reporting and save searches. And if we have a bit of time within that presentation, we may do a customer spotlight there too. We have our meeting sponsor, SES Cloud. So they will also be on our call today and going through a little bit of the suite, the Super Sync for analytics as well, and that is that's a great feature. And actually, Danby, the company I work for, uses that feature as well. We have NetSuite here as well. Jova is going to cover Suite Analytics and the NetSuite Analytics data warehouse. And at the end, assuming that we have a bit of time, we have an open Q&A if you have questions about today's sessions or future, by all means, ask at that time. This is a list of our board members, but I thought since we have more attendance today, I thought it would be good to display some of our goals. So we are creating networking opportunities. We love to hear from you. We love to work with each other. We're all in this together, all on the NetSuite platform. And it's very helpful to help educate ourselves and educate others. So, we get together for these online meetings and in-person meetings as well coming up. We hope that our next one is going to be in person to share our knowledge and experiences. We have a friendly environment. No question can't be asked in this environment. We want to be open and listen to all of your needs. And also, if we can, be a voice for change as well to NetSuite. So we do have some communication and direct people to talk to at NetSuite, and we hope that our voices are heard as one, and a user group is very important. And of course, there's no membership fees. We love having our sponsors. They help keep the lights on, if you will, for our user group, so that we can have these online meetings and also upcoming in-person meetings where there are some costs involved as well. Some announcements. I don't know if everybody has gotten a notification or is being moved to the new OCI infrastructure, but there is now Canadian infrastructure both in Montreal as well as Toronto. So what does that mean? If your users are in Ontario, in theory, you should have faster access. You should have increased performance from a connection standpoint. And as well, it's good to know that your data is also within Canada too, if that's important for your compliance or anything moving forward. So if you haven't seen messages like this, then that you are moving, then expect it in the near future. I know Danby, we just moved ours, and all of our sandboxes and development environments are all moved. Probably seen lots of communication around the 23.2 release. I know personally, our company is slated for, I think it's September 2nd, really early September. So be sure to check your dashboard and check the new release SuiteLit there to see what your date is. And also a little plug, make sure that you have your release preview activated. And as we've said in many of the other meetings, this is a temporary sandbox that you get to use for a short period of time, which is fantastic as well if you do not have a sandbox in NetSuite. We have Suite World coming up in October 16th to 20th. I know I personally will be there. Gavin will be there. We would love to see you there as well. If you are going, drop us a note. Last year, we did have an Ontario NetSuite user group table for one of the lunches, and I'm sure I'll be hearing a little bit more about that upcoming, and we'll post that out to the group if we do have an opportunity to actually meet in person in Vegas. Our next meeting for ONSUG will be November 16th, and we are aiming to be in person. Now that will be in the GTA area. Probably, and Gavin has been working hard in the background on this at the Oracle facility in Mississauga. So we've been there before. I think it was 3 years ago was our last in-person meeting, and at that facility, and it would be great to see everybody back. We would have this event as hybrid as well, so both online and in person. But again, great to be in person these days. We do have an end of meeting poll that I will be launching towards the end. Usually you exit the meeting and it's done and then the poll occurs, but I wasn't able to do that because we had already created our meeting for today. But be sure to answer the poll. This is how we get better and understand what your needs are. I'm going to kick off a poll right now to help us with today's session as well. Just a few, I think there's 4 questions there, very simple, but it will gauge some of the what you are looking for out of the presentations today, and we can gear to some of those on the fly. Okay. All right. So again, our meeting sponsor today, SCS Cloud. We're going to take a look at SuperSync Analytics. They have a whole suite of different applications and add-ons for NetSuite. I'm not sure we'll be able to get to all of that today, but again, we're going to focus on analytics as our theme and topic today. All right, so first up, Gavin, you've got the floor with reporting and saved searches. Take it away. I will stop sharing.
Sounds good. Share. Let me see. Okay. You can see my screen, Mark.
No, cannot see it.
No. How's that?
Yes.
Yeah, this
Okay. Cool. So, yeah, I'm going to cover saved searches. Darcy's actually going to is going to talk about reporting a little later. When I was trying to figure out how to tackle this, and I know we talked about this being more advanced and we'll kind of get there, but I looked for some Suite World content on saved searches and found a really good session from last year, actually. So I kind of hijacked that partly. And funny story, I was looking at this, well, there's 2 guys that presented this, obviously. I actually current with somebody called Gary Meisner. That's definitely not this Gary Meisner. So, so just as a quick reminder, though, this content is all available in Suite Answers. So I often go looking for Suite World presentations for additional content. And there was a few good examples, but I thought this one kind of covered the process pretty well. So I'll kind of skip through some of this, and then I'm going to show you some of the searches that I've created here that we use every day. And they're they use a few of the different elements that we're going to talk about during the PowerPoint. So so what can you do with saved searches? one of my favorite things actually is, so reporting analytics, it's basically it's basically a query, right? So don't expect great formatting. But so it's if you want to concentrate more on getting the actual data really quickly. But then to me though, the real power of the Safe Search is what you can do with it afterwards. So you can run the search, you can put it on your dashboard, you can we have one that I set up here. We're using expense reporting at TrustCore. And so every Monday, I think it is, at noon, it sends an email to everyone who has expense reports to approve, and then they can quickly go and get to those to the transactions that they need to. Actually, it's all transaction types they need to be approved. So it's not just the list of data. You can also use it to go and email people to tell them that they have something to do. So more of an interactive reminder sort of thing. You can put it in your dashboard, you can use them for custom KPIs. You can even publish results to a website, or if you're using the customer portal, you can publish results there. So in the past, I've used that for if people want to give customers access to how much inventory they have on hand, or you have on hand, and have it in a limited basis. Then you can create a search that will publish a list of available inventory to a portal. So there's a few different ways you can use it. And the funny thing with Safe Searches is that I do like a lunch and learn here every other week now. And almost every time I cover something to do with Safe Searches, because somebody at some point is going to ask how they go and find a field or whatever, and I'm going to show you a good tip that I actually got out of this presentation over there. So I talked about that, with the Safe Search. This is a good example. So here's the income statement, which is the financial report. But then you can go and create a Safe Search. So we'll go and get you basically the same information, but just the formatting is not there. And there's a few other things with reporting as well. I'm not sure. There's a feature in reports called web query. It's not available in all reports, but on some of them it is. That would let you, for example, basically download a report to Excel, and then it kind of creates like a dynamic link between Excel and the Safe and NetSuite. So every time you open the spreadsheet, it will go and refresh the data. I don't think it works with financial reports, so there's specific reports it doesn't work with, but that's a big difference other than the formatting, etc. And obviously also in here you can see in the report you have the ability to expand, and Safe Searches don't really have that. You can group, but you don't have that interface where you can go and expand to get to more detail. So when you create a search, I often find people are intimidated at this stage, and I'll show you this in a little bit. But when you first go and create a search, you're presented with a list of every record in NetSuite, and that's a combination of core standard records, records installed by a bundle for a partner. So if you're using a Suite app, if you've got any custom record you create, so it's a long list. And unfortunately, as far as I've seen, there's no real way to limit what shows on that in this list. So you get end up with a really long list of records to start from. But the good news is that like 95% of the time you're going to be reported using either transactions. And so the transaction record contains every transaction type: sales orders, work orders, purchase orders, all that sort of thing. And then the other typical ones are customers, vendors, items, and then maybe employees. So those are probably the ones that you're going to use most often. So don't be distracted by the clutter of all the other records. The other thing that's important, and it's not something that can be taught, unfortunately, is that a lot of times the key to getting what you need in the Safe Search is the record you start from, because you can only really go one join away from the record you start from to another record. So sometimes you'll start off thinking that you want to start with the transaction search when you actually want to start with an item search, because from the item you can get to the transactions that it's used on, and then some other records that pertain to the item, the BOM, for example. So Sometimes it's a bit of trial and error. There's no hard and fast rule about where you should start. But that's just something you're going to learn over time, and something that I talk about all the time with our users. So you want to quickly get to this, bypass this confusing screen. I love how it says not advanced equals confusing, advanced equals simple. Totally right. So you want to get to this advanced one, and then really from there, it's just like building a query. If you've done any query building in any other system, this will be pretty familiar. The most common things you do if it's a transaction search, the first thing you want to do is type. So is that a work order? Is that a sales order? That sort of thing. The next thing you probably want to report on or filter on is main line, which basically means if it's yes, it means it's the header. So if you look at a sales order or a work order, there's the top part of the screen that says this is the general sales order information. This is what we're making if it's a work order, that sort of thing. And then you get the list underneath, which is either the items you're selling or the components you're consuming. So mainline yes equals header, mainline no equals lines. If you don't specify this, you'll end up with both. You'll end up with one entry for the sales order and an entry for every line. Same thing with the work order. You end up with an entry for the work order and an entry for every line. And I've not come across, I don't think, any real use for having both those available at the same time. Right, there might be one. So type, if you're doing transactions, for sure. Mainline, yes, no. Status or approval status is probably important. And or sometimes I kind of bypass status, and especially if it's like a sales order, or might add some combination of checking using the shipped quantity instead of using status. So sometimes the status we've had cases here recently where people have accidentally hit the close button on the sales order. So you end up with a closed sales order. And so sometimes it's useful to say that you should have show me everything where you've shipped less than what was ordered. That sort of thing. I'm seeing a chat message here. Note the journals don't have this mainline concept. Right. So not everything has mainline. So transactions typically have mainline and not customers' items don't, that sort of thing. So again, it just depends on how you which direction you're working with. So once you define your criteria, which is what the amount of information you want, then you're going to your results, and then this is typically super annoying because especially on transactions or items, you'll end up with a long list of default results. And so a lot of times what I do is actually just click remove all, or what I'll do is usually usually the top 4 or 5 are probably the most important ones. I don't typically use period because I'm not doing searches on financials, but if you are, you would. So date, type you've probably already filtered out in criteria, so you probably don't need that unless you're reporting on multiple transaction types. And that in itself gets confusing. Document number you want, name, which will bring in the customer or the vendor or whatever, and then amount or whatever, and then if you want to add item, quantity, that sort of thing. So I'll show you an example of this later, but typically you end up with a long list of other results, and you can just remove all those and then start to add your own on top of that. And then this is where it gets really fun. So you can just and one thing I always do is I always start really simple and generic and build a query to make sure that build the criteria to make sure I'm getting the results I want before I start going to try and add some more complexity. And especially when you get to formulas, if you're doing really complex formulas, I'll show you a couple of examples that I've done. I'll typically start if it's something that even if I want one big long complex formula, I'll typically break it out into multiple columns first, and so have and create different elements of it. So if I need to go and calculate on hand quantity, and then I need to go and calculate something else, and then I need to go and calculate something else, and have those all work together. I'll create those 3 columns, make sure that those numbers are right before, and then you can actually copy and paste the code from the formula into the 4th column that makes it all work together. And that just makes troubleshooting a little easier as well. And then don't forget as well, you can do it by custom labels. So NetSuite is going to use whatever the field name is typically, but then you can go and rename it. Document number is not always isn't always important. If you're reporting on sales orders, have order number in there or something instead. And then there's also so the save as is always a big one. I've done this a bunch of times. So one of the most common things that you'll do, actually I had a good example of this recently. So I created a search. This is my approvals search, the one that emails everyone in the company when they have a transaction to approve. And so I showed it in a lunch and learn. And this is the one, so it has the email link on it. And so I showed it in lunch and learn. Somebody took the initiative, which is awesome, to copy my approval search and did the save as and put their initials at the front at the start, which is what you should do. But then the next Monday, everyone in the company got 2 emails telling them they had approvals to do. So be careful with save as, because if you take someone else's search and you change it and just hit save, you basically overwrite. You might overwrite it, and then save as will give you a new version. So I've overwritten my own search a bunch of times. So optional search enhancements, highlighting. I love highlighting. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of that. It makes the results a lot easier to comprehend. Note that when you do the, in my experience anyway, when you do the conditions for the color highlighting, you have to exclude the other conditions so that they don't go in order. So it's not evaluating in the sequence. So you can't, if you want to have one color for something a variance of 5%, and then another color for a variance between 5 and 10%, you have to say between 5 and 10%. It's not above 5% or below 5%, below 10%. If you do below 5%, below 10%, everything will show up the below 10% colors. So I can show you an example of that too. And you can also be careful with these. I've used, I like using the little icons, but if everything if everything in your search is red or yellow and has an icon beside it, then it's probably not the right best. You should probably have the right criteria. You want to use the coloring to draw people's attention to something. And so actually this is the best part when you do this is when you have a flag or a color, it'll create a little legend at the bottom that shows you what that color is, which color means, which is kind of cool. And then filters. So filters are basically, so you set your criteria for what you want included. Filters are then where you want to let the user be able to go and segment the results in whatever way they want. I was looking the other day, actually, I'll try and give you a link. There's a couple of guys online, consultants online, who've done some really cool things with saved searches. There was one I was going to set up today, but I'll show you the link to it, where they have actually embedded an HTML link, so you can have a saved search link to another record or to another saved search. But one of the things that I find though is if you have lots of locations, or of course have items, you got to be careful what you put as a filter, because it's going to show you everything. A good example is status. So, and I've not found a workaround for this yet, without creating a custom field. So if you use status as a filter, which seems obvious, the NetSuite statuses are not across the board. The statuses are transaction specific. So if you add status as a filter, and you're working on sales orders, it shows all the statuses for all other transaction types as well. So the only way around that I found is you can create a custom list with a list of the sales order statuses, and then there's a way you can make that work. But so just be careful with the filters. They're depending how long the list is, then they don't always work as well. And then this is an example. So here's your list of your invoices in this case, and then you can so transaction type, again, probably not a good choice for a filter. If all you're showing as invoices, then that should just be invoices, period, for sure. But then department class, that sort of thing, and then if you choose here, will automatically filter the sublist. So let me go show you a couple of the ones that I've done, and then we'll come back to this part. And if Lisa or somebody can just remind me if there's questions, then I will try and address them otherwise. So I'm going to show you a couple of ones. This is one that I am super excited about. So Trustcore makes we make PVC panels that you can use to replace drywall. You might use it in your garage, basement, laundry room, that sort of thing. And so one of our big projects with NetSuite has been to start to record production information real time from the floor. So we built our own data collection app, and so it goes and feeds through. We're using Sligo for our integration. So we capture the scrap basically that's been recorded during production, and then we feed that into SQL table that then goes and updates the work order. So if I go and show you an example of this, if I go say this one, so on the work order itself, you can see I've created like a production info group. So there's the quantity, how many we built, how many pounds was that. So we're doing conversion to pound. We've got the scrap, and so under this reported scrap subtab, we have a list of all the scrap entries. In this case, there's only one, but in many cases there'd be multiple. And so, but because now we have this at the work order level, it means that we can now go and do reporting by the line, the operator, the tooling that was used, that sort of thing. And so this search is basically a summarized list, and so it's showing you, sort of highlighting is basically red is over 10%, yellow is between over 7.5%. There you go. And so we didn't have any of this information available to us before. We recorded scrap, put all of it into a big bucket. We didn't know what work order it was for. So now every time, and what we even have them doing is if there's no scrap, we actually have them enter a record saying that there's no scrap, and they can put it in comments. So there's reason codes and stuff too, so we know what our scrap is. The interesting thing about the way we do this is that so because we extrude our products, we don't actually have anything that's scrap. Anything that's scrap, we can regrind and we can reuse it again in production. So we can't use the standard scrap field in a NetSuite work order because it would do things that we don't want. So this is a good example, and this is pretty simple math, basically just to calculate the pounds per feet, etc. Another one that we like, there's a bunch of these online. If you go and Google for, I use Google all the time. NetSuite, saved search, progress bar, or whatever. And you'll find a bunch of websites that will give you free code snippets. And so I like this one. I'll show you the code for this in a second. So this shows you, it's a good example with filter. So I can go in here and say, I only want to see Palmerston, which is our Ontario plant. And then it's going to filter the list. We only show the Palmerston ones. And then it shows the progress bar. So that there's your work order, your quantity you're meant to make, how many you made so far, this is the progress bar showing you how many how far along you are. The nice thing about, there's some simpler ones than this. The nice one about this one is that in the code you can actually go and set the color for when it's not started, the color for when it's in progress, the color for both sides of the line, and you can actually put in text. So if we overproduce or something, you can actually put in text that would show up on in the progress bar itself. Bigger. Is that too small? I see. There we go. Oh, maybe that's too big. So that you can see we're making 1120. We've got 8, so made 800, and so in this case, it's showing you in the progress bar we've made 800, so we've got 320 to go. So there's a bunch of these progress bars available online to go and find, and it's pretty simple. If I go and show you this search, and this looks like a lot in there now that I see it, but here's this formula, and so basically in here you can go and replace, there's a bunch of case statements with then different elements to it. One thing to note, I've not investigated this fully yet. I seem to remember seeing something about NetSuite deprecating HTML in formulas, but they've added a new formula type in 23.2 called HTML. So I think it's a security thing. Usually that's where these things come from with NetSuite. So I believe what you'll have to do is if you're using HTML in formulas, or certain code in formulas, then you'll probably have to go and change your formula text to formula HTML in the next release. So something to check out in the release preview. So but this is pretty simple. It looks really complicated, but it's actually quite simple. And all you're doing is you're copying it off the website, you're pasting it into here, and you just replace the fields with the information that you want. This one is kind of interesting. So one of the things that we do is we consolidate shipments. So we ship full truckloads, and so it's something that NetSuite's not great at out of the box. We built a solution for that too, and so what we wanted was a list of all the scheduled lines, and showing what's been. We're using NetSuite WMS, so before we pick something, it has to be committed, but we're also using supply allocation. So if something is not, if we don't have inventory yet, but we have the order in process, work order in process, order an inbound PO, then it will still allocate even if it's not committed. And so what I did is a simple case statement over here, and so it basically goes and says if the committed quantity equals the balance, then it's fully committed. And you can see we're doing quite well. If the allocated quantity equals the balance, then it's fully allocated. I'm not sure if anyone's used supply allocation. I'm a big fan. I know Mark's tried to use it. I'm not sure where they are with that at Danby. The thing I like about it is so it's showing me fully allocated. If this is now becomes a hyperlink, if I click on the 60, it shows me that this is a work order that's already in process. So this work order is making 180, and it's meant to be done. I'm not sure if this should have been done a few days ago, but all of that 880, 60 have been allocated to this order. And then if it's neither allocated or committed, and if I sort by this, then you'll see there's a few that have, oh, it's only this is actually pretty good. It's only like 4 that we have to do something with. This is so I have 242 lines over the next 30 days that we're going to ship. Only 4 5 we still have to go and create work orders for. The rest are either fully allocated or fully committed. So and that's a really simple. I'll go back to the deck in a minute because it talks about case statements, but that's a really simple case statement. And so here's, for example, our balance is the quantity minus quantity shipped. The uncommitted is basically the balance minus the committed quantity. So that's what's left to be committed. And then here's a really simple case statement. When the quantity is less than this, then say fully committed, else fully allocated, else action required. So there's 3 conditions in there, and you're just measuring the quantities available. But it really gives that and then combined with the highlighting. So if it's orange, it's action required. They put an exclamation mark, and so there's my formula in there as well. And so the formula is actually is basically the same. So you can basically just copy and paste that same formula from the results, and then it says when the output is action required, color it orange. When the output is fully allocated, then color it yellow. And that's exactly what this does. So very simple. The one that that has the email in it. I'll show you because this is kind of interesting. So because the thing that this does, so you can use this in 2 ways. I have a search set up that sends me so when we first started recording scrap from production, I had a search set up to send me a list of all the scrap entries every day, just so I could see what was coming in, which you would use this for. And then in that case, I'd have had that set up as a specific recipients, and it would have been me. In this case, what you want, so this my approvals is the one that goes and shows any transaction that's pending approval. And so in that case, what we do is you use this recipients from results, and then we're using the next approver field. So basically it runs a search, looks at all the transactions that are pending approval. And so it's going to email whoever the next approver is. And so what happens is, so we have like 53 users or something who are only in Team Member Central, which is Employee Center. We don't have employees here. We have team members. So we have like 50 employees who are only in an Employee Center / Team Member Central. So they're not in there every day. It's one thing if you're in NetSuite all day, then you can use reminders because you'll see it. If you're not in there every day, then that might be a little harder to maintain. And so in this case, we use the next approvers. I think it goes, I have a custom message saying you have transactions to approve, and then the schedule says it goes, oh, every day. There you go. So it goes every day at 9 a.m. And so whoever has transactions to approve is getting an email too. How long do we have, Mark? Am I almost out of time?
10:50, so another 10 minutes, Kevin.
Including Darcy?
Yes.
Okay.
We can push Darcy's to the end and replace the questions.
Any questions so far? Is this like too high level, too deep? Good.
I had one comment, Gavin. I've noticed that if I copy and paste a formula from Suite Answers, it will never work. I physically have to type it.
Totally.
Yeah, it drives me nuts because I think I've done something wrong or Suite Answers is wrong. And then eventually I realize perhaps if I type it, it kind of resets it. So that's a trick to be aware of.
Cool. Good to know. I really like this deck because it put a few different things in that I thought were pretty interesting. I like that at the start talking about don't be distracted by all the records you can start with. There's only 4 or 5 you're probably going to typically use. I like this as well. It's showing you the fields you might typically use. One thing you'll notice is I think I noticed about Suite Analytics. So a saved search will typically not include inactive records. Suite Analytics does. So if you're using Suite Analytics, when you build your data set, you have to exclude inactive records, which is kind of a pain. If Joe's on the call, I'm going to give him a hard time with that later. So I'm sure it's working as designed though. So this, I'll send, if you go on into Suite Answers and search for saved search, there's about only like four, there's on the left hand side, it will show you Suite Wrong presentations. There's only like 4 in there, so you'll be able to find this one really easily. And then, oh, so this is the other important thing. So you do your search. I talked about you want to start the most central record to get the information you want. So it might not always be obvious what that record is. That's because you can only get to one join away from the record you start with. So to get to the join, when you add your fields, you go down to the bottom, and it's not that obvious, but anything with 3 dots after it is you linking to another record. Those you can't edit those links. NetSuite maintains those links based on the relationship in the database. So you just have to find the right one. And sometimes it's not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes there's created from will work. Sometimes applied to or applied from will work. So there's a few different things to go and try, but that's how you get to other records in there. And then, oh, this is what I was going to show you. People always talk about this is an example the other day. So if you're doing one of the first things you want to do is go into your set preferences, and you want to have this show internal IDs checked. What that does is that when you go and click on one of these fields, custom fields, of course I didn't put in the description what this is, but it shows you the field ID, which is great. But how do you use that field ID in the search? So what you do, actually I can go and hijack this one for fun. So even though that's already got that one in here, I'm going to go and I'll go and change this afterwards. So, but basically what you do is you go in here, and if you can't find a field, you copy that field ID from the UI, you put in a squiggly bracket, you put it in the middle, you close the squiggly bracket, you give it a title, of course, and then that will go and insert that data point into your search. So that's how you go and identify what a field is actually called, and then get it onto your report, even though it's actually pounds produced, which I already had. So I'm going to move it before somebody complains, because I'm in our production account. Don't tell everybody. Okay. I think there was so I would highly recommend you go and have a look at this deck. There's a bunch of other good stuff in here. Oh, the other thing I was going to show you is the website for the guy who, there we go. So there's a couple of different ones. But there's this website, and it's actually one I'm missing. But if you go and Google NetSuite saved search hyperlink or something, or NetSuite saved search, whatever, there's a couple of consultants who have some great articles, and so this guy has blogs on how to do all these things, and so this basically will show you how to go and create a hyperlink in your saved search to link to either another record or to actually launch another saved search, which is kind of super cool. I was going to set that up today, but I ran out of time. And so there's a couple of guys who have some great information on the website where you can go and find. And of course, there's always Reddit as well. I find Reddit to be a little more difficult to navigate at times. So I think that's it. unless there's any questions.
Gavin, there is a question in the chat.
Yeah.
From Ethan. Oh,
Joining
Elham, sorry.
tables.
Elham.
Yeah. Is that the understanding?
Hi, everyone. I have a question.
Yep.
So I've noticed that when we want to like make kind of table joins through Safe Search, there's just two tables available, applied to transactions and applying to transaction, which actually a table before, for example, the table that we selected to make a Safe Search based on it, and the next table or the next stage on the process. So is there any way so we could select fields from more tables? Like, for example, it is especially needed on sales process when, for example, we have sales order and then there's an invoice and there would be a like return authorization RMA transaction, and then there's 3 transactions that is created based on each other. Sometimes I need to select more fields from like 2 or 3 stages before.
So I think you can do it with SQL if you know SQL.
Yeah, I know SQL, but
but the default answer is no. Suite Analytics does, and that's one of the reasons. I'm sure Job's going to talk about this when he's presenting. But one of the reasons that Suite Analytics was built was to solve that one join away or one table away problem. I continue to persist with Suite Analytics. It has some of its own idiosyncrasies that you may or may not like, and so but it has, Suite Analytics has more joins available, and also lets you actually create your own joins that don't exist. It's a little limited. So the default answer is by using the UI, no. By using SQL, maybe, as long as you know what you're doing. The other answer is, and we do this a lot, is if you create custom fields on the, and then you can create your own links. So if you want to get to an RMA and you can't get to an RMA for whatever reason, then if you put a custom field on the RMA and you source over the document you want to link to, you should be able, that should then make it available in the Safe Search.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you. It's like having a shortcut fields between tables. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. That's how we solved it as well. We just put custom records and links on the major transactions.
Yeah. Cool. Who's next, Mark?
All right, that's great, Gavin. Thank you. That was awesome. That was a lot, condensed. We could probably have a double session on this because it's so rich. But let's keep us on track. We've got SCS Cloud. Derek and Henry are joining us today. Welcome, guys. You have a PowerPoint to share with the group, and 10 minutes is yours.
Amazing. Thank you, Mark. Pleasure. And nice to meet everybody here. Happy to be one of the sponsors for the event and to give you a little presentation today. So as Mark mentioned, we are from SCS Cloud, and we're the creators of a series of products for NetSuite called SuperSync. And so we're going to deep dive into one of those a little bit today, which is our analytics, SuperSync analytics product. But before that, I'm just going to give you probably a 1 to 2 minute overview. We've got a number of different solutions for NetSuite, and like I mentioned, we'll focus mostly on our analytics piece, and Henry's going to kind of lead that up. He's the architect for that and extremely knowledgeable in all the NetSuite components. But figured I'd whip through a couple of our other solutions. If anything piques your interest, you can obviously contact us after the meeting. But we have a series of approved suite apps with NetSuite called SuperSync, and our analytics is a big part of what we do with that, and excited to show you that today. In addition to that, we've got all sorts of other solutions for various integration type of tools mostly. So whether that's, the Outlook connectors, document connectors, etc. So lots of different things within that same platform. Some of them are built completely on NetSuite. Some of them use a little bit of middleware tool to kind of improve the speed and performance of some of the solutions. So for example, one of the benefits that we have seen with this is that we're basically built exclusively for NetSuite. So there's a lot of tools out there, and I'm sure, you all have seen apps that get installed within your NetSuite account that are integrated apps, or if you Google, get a particular solution, they're not really built for NetSuite, and NetSuite's an intricate platform that has a lot of things that need to be thought in terms of design and architecture. So our whole SuperSync suite of products have been really focused around correctly having within the NetSuite environment. So a couple of those would be, for example, we have an Outlook connector, email for Outlook. It's very popular. We've got a couple hundred NetSuite customers on this solution. Great solution. It does standard Outlook. It also does a calendar sync and like a backend email sync as well. We've got a file, SuperSync files, which can allow you to connect to SharePoint or Google Drive directly from within your NetSuite account and store all your files there. Skip the NetSuite file cabinet itself, which is very handy, especially when you have high volume of files or large files. And then, of course, we've got our sort of core of the SuperSync integrations, which is our e-commerce integrations. And kind of those are somewhere between the Oracle standard connector integrations, which used to be the old Far App product, and Celigo, which is a little bit more upmarket. But with Celigo, you don't necessarily get a managed implementation unless you're working with a partner. All of our e-commerce integrations, all of our third-party logistics company integrations, those are all managed. So we basically take you through from start to finish, and we've got NetSuite experts on the team here who have set these things up and will make sure they work successfully in your NetSuite environment. So in addition to that, one of our most popular integration ones is a Salesforce integration, obviously a very big part of NetSuite and very important for many companies, especially tech companies or others that are using Salesforce, to get that integrated really seamlessly with NetSuite. But when you think of the integrations for NetSuite, there's lots of other ones as well. So that's kind of the basics on our core integration platform. We've got some other nifty solutions like a complex approvals app where you can build out really deep approvals inside of NetSuite for all different types of transactions, and you don't have to have users have a login to be able to approve NetSuite transactions. That can include things like your core transactions like purchase orders, bills. It also includes things like vendors and other ones that are sort of non-standard on approvals as well. So a couple more, and then I'm going to turn this over to Henry for the analytics main show here. So if you ever have a problem with these ePay links from NetSuite, we've got a solution for managing payment links to be able to go in and do credit card payments and ACH payments online. And then in addition, if you've ever heard of Punch Out, which is kind of purchasing from a vendor catalog, that's another solution that we have all built on platform with NetSuite. So very, very interesting being able to integrate with everything from Amazon to more complex suppliers that have very detailed purchasing. So that's my little high flyover. And Henry, I'm going to turn it over to you for SuperSync Analytics.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks all for the time today. So I think I'll just do a really quick overview of this. Maybe we'll take a look at it in NetSuite, and then if anyone's interested, just we're happy to set up some more time to walk through it. Essentially, what SuperSync Analytics is, it's primarily a Power BI connector. Probably most people have either heard of Power BI or worked with it. It's kind of Microsoft's business intelligence reporting platform. That's been around for a good decade plus now. They're constantly growing it. Even just in the last few months, they've been kind of doing some major new releases to include support for artificial intelligence, kind of AI, and integration with the reporting as well. So this is primarily a connector that works to push data from NetSuite to Power BI. I'll kind of show you what it looks like here. I'm going to grab screen share, just give you kind of a taste of what you can do with this. So let me pull up my NetSuite account here. So really what the connector does, it handles two things. One is getting data from NetSuite over to Microsoft's Power BI platform. And then the other thing is embedding Power BI reports back into NetSuite. So you can kind of see what you can do here. Once you've got the sync going out to Power BI, you can then build those reports, graphs. They've got a lot of different tools for, charting and kind of graphing and tables. And then you can just embed those kind of as a live report back into NetSuite. So these are some that I've built earlier. This is just NetSuite save searches that are driving these. There's all kinds of drill down ability, right? You can kind of like click into things and, drill down, drill back up and kind of filter graphs and things like that, right? Come over here, you can drill in on a graph and you can, focus in on that particular segment that you're looking at. So they're all very interactive, these graphs. And I wanted to just take a couple minutes to show you really how simple it is to set these up. Then we can always dive in more if anyone's interested. So basically setting up these to push data over to Power BI, you can start with basically create a new data source. I'll show you what that looks like, SuperSync Analytics, data sources. And you can drive these off of a save search, or you could even drive it off of a SuiteQL query as well. So we could do, like, for example, I think I've got a save search over here, sample transactions. So we could just say save search, right? Grab a transaction save search, and then we just give it an endpoint name like this. And I'll show you what we can do is we can save that, kind of link to a saved search, generates a little URL for us. And then we can jump over into Microsoft's Power BI platform. And essentially, directly from there, we can basically add a web data source. Now, I've already got the credentials stored in here, so it's not going to prompt me for those, but you'd essentially enter in like a key and secret value that are generated from NetSuite tokens. And I'm just kind of going through quickly here so you can kind of see how simply and how fast this is to use and get graphs up and running. So basically, Power BI would be connecting to NetSuite via our SuperSync connector. And from there, it basically kind of scans through the rows, tries to figure out what are the correct data types to assign to all of those columns based on what it's getting. Usually does a pretty good job at that. You can kind of see all the data that's coming back over. So here's like the save search results coming through in Power BI. And then from there, we're pretty much free to see that data source appearing here in a moment. And then we're kind of free to build out charts with that. And the great thing about Power BI is kind of some of the, like Gavin was touching on earlier, you end up with the limitations around how many joins you can do. So if you can pull over multiple tables into Power BI and then join them in Power BI, so it gets around that limitation. No, we don't have a lot of time, but I just kind of want to show you a full cycle here, what this looks like really quickly. So then we can do things like amount and location, and then drop it in there as a, a column chart or something like that, right? And then this can just be published up to Power BI and embedded into NetSuite, and that takes another minute or two to be able to do that. And then eventually, you end up something looking kind of like this, where you can just embed all that data back into NetSuite. So that's kind of the high level, what it looks like. Like I said, we also have ability to do query-based data sources. So if you've got SQL skill sets as well, you could just write SuiteQL queries. That gets around the limitations with joins, and you can basically paste those queries directly into the data source setups as well, and then use that to build graphs and embed them right back into your dashboard. So hopefully that's helpful. I know it's just a kind of a brief snippet, but kind of comes along with the theme of everything that you're looking at today.
Awesome,
Mark,
Henry. That's great. Henry, Derek. Yeah, really good. And I can speak, personally, this solution is fantastic. We're using it here at Danby. I've got 87 data sets that go out to actually files on SharePoint, and then I bring those SharePoint files into Power BI. Do all the multiple joins and all of that in Power BI too. So even getting up to speed on Power BI was pretty quick. I was very surprised and how easy it actually is. So yeah, great work, guys. Great products, and I would highly recommend, guys, you take a look at SES Cloud's solutions there. Okay. And maybe throw in the chat, guys, like your contact information so that we can reach out, or how do we reach out to SES Cloud, okay? All right, that's great, thank you. You have, you're on the call now, it's great.
I'm here, yes. Hello, everyone.
Great, over to you. Yep, you've got the floor for the next 40 minutes.
Thank you. Good. Okay, what I will do over the next 40 minutes is I will tell you a little bit about Suite Analytics and the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. I'll start with an introduction of overall, what we're doing in analytics, what is it good for at NetSuite, and then a deep dive with 2 demos into Suite Analytics, dataset and workbooks, and NSAW. So if we look at Suite Analytics as an overall, umbrella of what type of analytics capabilities we offer from NetSuite, we look at it from a way that Gartner is categorizing it in terms of descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive analytics, and we also look at the analytical skill sets of our users. And I think we have good offerings along the spectrum, especially now with the introduction of the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. I think most of you are familiar with report and saved searches. That these are capabilities that are within NetSuite forever. And we added, over time, the capability to monitor and drill down within dashboards. We have the NetSuite dashboards, we had KPIs. A couple of years ago, together with workbooks, we introduced the analytics portlet. From the analytics portlet, if you have that on your dashboards, you can drill down into the workbooks and the data sets that you have. You can use it to slice and dice data and dig deeper into your data and get insights from there. And then, of course, from there, you can also go and export the data using Connect, and then do with the data basically whatever you would like to do. Input them into any data science tool, machine learning tools, or into the analytics warehouse that comes with out-of-the-box machine learning and AI capabilities. And we have our open APIs. If you don't want to go the Connect route, where you can just directly connect any tools or implement any algorithms and get the data out, do the analysis on that, etc. So that's overall, the spectrum on which we operate. I'll quickly go over each of them. And as said, the main purpose for me today is to walk you through some demos. So this will be really a quick walkthrough, and then we will deep dive into the newer capabilities. So, as said, I assume most of you are very familiar with reports, saved searches, reports. We have hundreds of pre-built standard reports that we deliver. Capability to build your own ad hoc reports, and these are easy to read in a tabular form, and is able to give and aggregate most of the information that you need from a pure descriptive analytics point of view to figure out what's going on in your business right now. Beyond that, saved searches is really built to answer any business question that you might have. There, we offer some standard saved searches that come out of the box, but we also give you the capabilities, of course, to build your own ones, either for KPIs or for other purposes, or just to create, various lists that you need, and be able to put them on your dashboards, of course. Talking about the dashboards, the KPI capabilities that we have there. Again, some of them are out of the box. Some of them are created by you. And there are several ways you can monitor, or sorry, you can visualize your KPIs, and you can put them on your dashboard in order to monitor what's going on. The dashboard overall gives you, different layouts, various amounts of portlets. A new portlet we've introduced a few years back, as I mentioned, is the analytics portlet, specifically targeted to help you put workbook visualizations onto your dashboard as well. And you'll see that in the demo in a bit. Data set and workbooks, our newest embedded analytics capabilities that we have. Data sets really are meant to visually define a query and get a set of data back. And workbooks are meant to sit on top of one or multiple data sets and help you build either tables, pivots, or charts on top of them. I will talk a little bit of how you can have different data sets, that you can join in a workbook, and with that get additional insights into what's going on. And whatever you are building in a workbook, you're able to put that on your dashboards as mentioned. Suite Connect and Suite Script. Suite Connect is an additional capability to get data out of NetSuite into wherever you would like to put it. It's using either an ODBC, JDB, C is missing, JDBC, or .NET connector. And this is one of the two areas that comes with an additional license. Everything I mentioned so far is part of the basic NetSuite license that you have. Suite Script is our way in which you can extend NetSuite, build data sets and workbooks on top of that, on top of NetSuite. Or any other applications that you would like, and embed analytics into them. And last but not least, the analytics warehouse. This is really a solution we've built together with Oracle. It is using Oracle technologies like the autonomous data warehouse, where we put the data, store the data, and the Oracle Analytics Cloud, which is our BI and visualization tool that will allow you to apply lots of visualization, a lot of intelligence, machine learning algorithms on top of your data, and is really meant for very data savvy users to be able to dig deeper and gain insights, or will be told insights by the system. Good. With that, I will start first with a demo of data workbooks and data sets, and then if we have time, I would like to share also a demo of the analytics warehouse. So let me start here, and let me know if you can see the video well once I started it. Okay. Is it visible? Is it big enough?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So we have up here we have what we call Analytics Home. If you click on that, you'll get a view similar to this. On the top part of it, you have whatever you've declared your favorite workbooks are. in the bottom part, you can switch between workbooks and data sets. If we look at that, oh, by the way, that's all built on a currently live system. So you will even see a bug in there. So this way, everything I'm showing you is available to you right now. There's nothing that's like labs or anything like that. That's all available to you at the moment. So on the data sets, you get a bunch of details on each of the data sets we have. Under actions, we can look at the caches that we have on for data sets. That is a newer capability. What it does is usually whenever we use any of the analytics capabilities, it is a real-time query to the database that retrieves the data and shows the data. It also has the disadvantage that if you want to perform some diagnostic analytics, if you want to slice and dice the data, it usually is less performant than if you cache that data. So what we do with data set caches, it allows you to cache the data at a specific point in time. So whenever you activate the cache, and it allows you to then work with the cache data. That has the advantage that the queries you'll do, the slicing and dicing is much quicker. And you'll see later on how you activate and deactivate the cache. So in this view, basically you can see for which workbooks and for which data sets within the workbook the cache was activated when the last refresh was completed, and you also have the opportunity to disable the cache if you would like to do so. In this case, we have something data set that we called deprecated, and for that we don't need the cache anymore. So we'll go and disable it. As mentioned, I'll show you in a bit how to activate and deactivate the cache. I will speed that up a little bit. Okay. Next, we'll go into a workbook itself. After we disable that. We'll pick the sales workbook. And there are a few things I would like to highlight here. If you haven't seen a workbook before, a workbook can be sitting atop of one or many data sets. And each of these tabs that you see here on the top can be connected to one data set or a linked data set. So the way that it works is you can basically define which data set is used for any specific visualization that you do here. In this first one, that's a pivot table, you see that we actually have a linked data set. It sits on two data sets that are linked together, the quota data set and the sales data set. What it does, it basically allows us, in this case, to compare the sales of individual sales reps. So these are the sales reps, that's the sales that they made with the quota that they actually have, and to basically then create what we call a calculated measure to show, too quick, let me go back here. It's a calculated measure that shows the difference. So that person here is still under quota by a bit. the other ones are at quota or over quota. There are a bunch of other visualizations that we have in that workbook. I'll go through them real quick. The next one is a chart. In general, we have 3 ways in which we can interact. There's a pivot. You see that here. There is a chart, depicted by this symbol, that can show you information. And there is also a table that you'll see here that's depicted by this information. And you can also see the first ones are all on that data set here, but not all of them are. We'll see, I think, immediately the next one is also on that data set. Here we go. Finally, this one sits on a completely different data set. It's the item data set. And with that, the workbook is really intended to create insight or information that is delivered to you based on a specific domain. In this case, we are sales, and link all the type of data sets that you need in order to be able to analyze and monitor the information you would like. So ideally, we would like to avoid that you create, for every single visualization that you have one workbook, but really to think strategically into what information should be in a workbook, so that we can create that based on the data sets that we need and distribute that to the users, so that they have one single point of entry when it comes to analytics. Yeah, here we see a table, and then again another pivot table. We'll go back to the first one and highlight a little bit of what we did. So if we look into the linked data set, I said this is one data set for quota, one for sales. We also then are able, once we click on either of the two, it shows us which fields are available for us in that data set, and via drag and drop we can take these fields into the layout of our pivot table. The ones highlighted in blue are the ones that we basically are using in our pivot table right now. Said these one here are dimensions we take directly from the data set. The difference and the dollar difference, the percentage difference, is what we call calculated measure, highlighted by these symbols. And before we get into that, we see how we are basically creating a data set link. We have data set 1, we have data set 2, we have a UI bug, as I said, that we don't have right now, but it shows you, the quota data set and the sales data set. And what you basically need to do is you basically just need to tell us which are the same dimensions that we should link these data sets, how we should link these data sets together. In this case, it's the date and the sales rep. That's how we are linking these two data sets, and that's how do we know which measures, how to calculate the measures along the various dimensions that we have linked that to. So in that case, if we want to know for a specific quota, what is the sales quota and what is the sales amount, we know that because we have defined the link, and we have defined a sales rep, so we can do that. We want to look into how to build a calculated measure. It's pretty simple here. The difference is just the sales amount minus the quota. Super easy. Just you need to remember, you need to tell us on which data set you want to take the fields from, and then you basically just drag and drop them over. That's how we do the percentage. Done with that. Keep in mind, similar to this is when you when you basically start from scratch, you give you a little bit of an empty canvas here, and you can just start dragging and dropping your various fields and put some arithmetic behind it. The next thing is exactly formatting. Similar to Excel, you need to tell us that you would like to display the difference in percentage. Otherwise, it will be decimal numbers. So just keep that in mind if you try it by yourself and you're wondering why isn't it percentage. Another pretty cool feature is the conditional formatting. You see we have red, yellow, and green areas here. We can define our own rules on how to display them. We can say if the difference is less than 0, it's red, greater than 5%, in that case, it's yellow, whatever color we would like to give it. And sorry, greater than 5, it's green, and then between 0 and 5, it's yellow. And that's how you define basically the conditional formatting. I think I mentioned that the way we do visualizations, we can, by clicking down here, easily filter out some of the columns. If we would to build a new type of visualization, we would do that by clicking the plus icon. As said, we have 3 ways to visualize your data: table, pivot, and chart. We can pick, any of the data sets we have. We can also create a new link for a specific data set, right? By picking 2 of them and then picking the fields over which we link. And we can connect a complete new data set if we feel we don't have the one already connected to the workbook. When you click on that, you will see all the connected data sets on the top, and you have all the available data sets at the bottom. And you can just connect them, and then you can start building visualizations against it. I'll pause here real quick. One important thing is each of the tabs is really connected to one data set or a set of linked data sets. The workbook can have many data sets on which it's based on, but each tab can only be based on one. Just keep that in mind. So we picked basically a pivot visualization. This is how we add totals and subtotals, and then based on that, we can also export the information to CBS. To the CSV format. Yes, I did talk about the data sets caching early on. You trigger it up here. You see when it says real-time response, the cache is not there. If you click on the arrow, you can basically switch from real-time response to cached. And then it will say cached response once it's done. That also happens per tab per user. The reason why it is per tab per user is every user has different data permissions. So there can be several users in your account using that workbook, but that workbook will be executed, and the queries that sit behind the workbook will be executed with the data permissions the individual user has. So when we cache that, we need to make sure that the query runs once with the respective permissions of the user, and then it's going to be cached. So every user, when they open their workbooks, they need to set their cache preferences themselves. There's nothing that works for all users that have access to a specific workbook. If we would like to edit a data set, we just go to the dataset tab, show that, open it. It gives us a little information on the workbook, in how many workbooks it is used. And if we make a change to the data set, for example, we take out a certain field from the data set, it will affect all the 3 workbooks where this field might be in use, and it might, make some visualizations useless, basically. So be always very careful if you have data sets that are used in workbooks, how you edit and how you make changes to them. Adding fields is usually good. It will not destroy any of the work that has been done, but removing can be tricky. This is something to get used to a little bit. Let me go back just a little bit. Here we go. Yeah, let's start here. So if we basically editing a data set, we are getting to a UI that looks like that. We call it the dataset builder. On this side, it shows all the fields that are being used in the data set. And here you basically have all of our records that are available through links as well. And this is what we will show. It really is like a tree that you can browse through and that you get the fields from. So we can go to the record account class, we can open them, we see all the records that are linked to them. And if we click on a record, you see that their field gets shown here. If there's no blue field, it just means so far we haven't used any field from that record in our data set. If we would like to use a field, it's drag and drop, basically. And here you see the result of everything that you've added. We can also add formula fields by clicking new formula. I'm using it, for example, to aggregate certain values if there are like too many values for a specific dimension and I would like to aggregate them. So let's say, we have a bunch of US states, California, Oregon, Washington State, and I want to aggregate them to US West. And I don't have a custom field for that, then this is how I would do it here. I would create a formula. I could basically do a case and say, if it's these states, just call it US West. And then I can take US West into my data set, and then I can use that in a pivot, for example, on a higher aggregation level, and expand, collapse it, and then maybe take the individual states, etc. Before we go there, there's also something here, a criteria builder. So this one here, as I said, that's our tree of all our records and the joins that you can perform on the record, and then the fields that you can drag and drop and create formulas, etc. You can also use the criteria builder here to basically filter on what you would like to do. For example, if I want to build the sales invoice here, and I'm in business for 15 years, I might not want to have all 15 years of sales data in there. And in fact, that will, make the query and the performance slower. So if I build it to really just analyze sales over the last few years, let's say 3, because you also want to look at year-over-year sales, you would build a criteria here, take the dates and then limit it to the last 3 years, for example. If there is any region you want to focus on, if there are just specific items, you do all of that in the criteria builder on top, and tell us, what you want to filter it on. And then last one, what you're doing is, I said we have this new analytics portlet. If you want to bring in any visualization, you bring that in, you click all types, you see all the workbooks that are available. Pause here. So the workbooks are basically in gray, and then you have the various visualizations of the workbooks here. You pick the visualization you would like from the workbook you would like. You can give it a custom name. You can tell us, how many rows in this pivot you wanna show, and then you have that on your dashboard. You can make it big, and you can also from here directly go into the workbook, and it will bring you to whatever the visualization tab was of the specific workbook, and you can continue your analysis with that. Cool, good. I know that was quick. Before I jump into NSAW though, are there any questions?
What are the field names for your data set? What is that based on? Is that based on the like the SQL listing of fields, Save Search list of fields?
Yes, it's none of them. So it's actually based, because we already provided you 4 ways to build queries with different field names. So we thought, why not invent a 5th one? And that's what it actually is. But kidding aside, there is an initiative within NetSuite where we try to unify all these various models. This is basically what it is based on. Unfortunately, the field names are slightly different than what you're used to from Saved Search. It comes with a bunch of advantages, because right now, as you've seen, you have like multi-level joins that you can perform by drilling down from the records and picking the fields and putting them into your data set. We can do the data set linking, which is an improvement to Saved Search, but that comes at the price of us not being able to keep these names the way you are used to from Saved Search, unfortunately. But for Connect, for example, if you're now using Connect, which had also its own data model in the past, if you would start a Connect project now, or even if you would like to build a new query on an existing Connect, it will also now go against the same data source that you are using for workbooks and data set. So step by step, we will try to incentivize you to move to, or to learn this new data model and to use data sets and workbooks where maybe in the past you have used Saved Searches. Saved Searches are very powerful, and we are not discouraging you from using them. The opposite, please keep using Saved Searches wherever you see fit. But I think there are certain areas when you think about your holistic strategy for analytics, where having a workbook and having users analyze the workbook, where going through the work of building a data set and then a workbook on top of it, and only exporting the workbook to users might be an advantage, right? Because we also decoupled the 2 of them, and you can prevent users from editing or building their own data sets. The issue with saved searches, I think, is that there is just, there are just too many in specific accounts. Everybody creates them. And if I have a discussion with you about, hey, what was our sales last month? Everybody will come with their own saved search. Everybody defined it slightly different, and we are wondering, why are the numbers different? So in this case, we wanted to be able for administrators or power users to create one data set where we say that's sales, and then users cannot change that, but they can build a workbook against it and visualize the data as the way that they want, or they can use a workbook that an administrator or power user have created for them, but they cannot define the meaning of what sales means for your specific organization. I think that's kind of where we came from. I know we are hearing that it is painful now to learn yet another data model. We try to make it easier by having a UI that allows you to browse through the data where you get some information. I know in some areas, if I go back, you see if yes, you have information for all of these fields where we put basically behind them, we put the information of maybe how it was called in saved search or how it was called in others, but we couldn't do it for all of them. So it will be unfortunately a little bit of an exploration exercise. We do come with a bunch of data set templates and workbook templates that help you look a little bit how we define certain things and how it works and which records and fields we're using. And there is some online help as well, I think, for main changes that we made, between, for example, transaction and transaction line. That's a new concept. We didn't have that with saved searches. And it will take a little bit time to get used to, but I think that there are a lot of advantages where this can be taken further to help users than what saved search could have done.
And Suite Analytics is included in everybody's license of NetSuite.
Yes. I don't know if we changed it, but under setup and analytics, there is a check mark for workbooks. So you need to enable, an administrator would have to enable it, but it is included as part of everyone's license, yes.
Okay, great. And Lisa has a question in the chat, and she's raised her hand. What about consolidated data or using consolidated exchange rates?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe you can explain a bit more.
If you've got 150 subsidiaries or with different currencies, like base currencies, does the data set do the consolidation of those numbers, like all in my base parent company of US dollars?
Yes, okay. Yes, we don't show that in the demo, but we do have currency conversion built into workbooks. So you can decide if you want to show all the different currencies. So the way it would look like, let me go back.
But is it using the daily rate or the financial reporting rate, i.e. consolidation?
It is, I don't know, I would have to get back to you to what we support there, if it is the day rate. I think actually it is the day rate, because we're taking, yeah, it should be the day rate. Yeah, absolutely, because we are taking it, analytics doesn't do it differently. We take it centrally from NetSuite, so it should be the day rate in which we are consolidating this.
See, that's one of the issues and why people, the financial reports are all on a consolidated basis, are all using a monthly exchange rate, be that a period end date or a month end rate. So if I have a sales report in NetSuite, well, that's consolidated. It will never tie to this sales workbook. if the sales workbook is going to do daily rates.
Mhm.
So that's probably why not many people are taking up on the analytics, because it's not agreeing to the financial statements, potentially.
Yeah, so that goes back to what I said initially. When we put that in, when we came up with workbook, it was really for less of reporting purposes and more for diagnostic purposes. It was more for, you know, hey, my sales is going down. Why is it? Right? Let me look, let me deep dive, let me, you know, connect sales to quota, let me connect sales to maybe discounts that we are having. Did the discounts go up? What really happened? For that, you know, I hear what you're saying, but that's why for us the day rate was a better way to do it. And ultimately for the analysis on why sales is going up or down and finding the root cause, it was not that much of an effect. It didn't have that much of an effect as it is, of course, for a financial statement or any statutory reporting that you have to do, for which we have the financial reports. That's what they are for.
Yeah. I think sales could be going down, that your majority of your sales are in a country where the exchange rate's moving against you as well.
Mm-hmm.
I can say
It's true. It's true. I hear your point, and I wrote it down to see if there is something we can do, you know, to maybe support both ways.
Yeah.
No, we're running close to time here, but let's switch to the data warehouse now, if you can.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How much time do you need on the data warehouse?
That's a much shorter demo. I think that's like a 5-minute demo.
Okay.
Out here, share that again. Okay, I hope you can see that. What you see here looks different. That's not NetSuite. That is the OAC look and feel that you're getting, and the way that an OAC dashboard looks like. You see is basically, or before I go there, the way that it works is we have some data domains, sales, finance, employees, others that you configure in NetSuite, and you say this data should go into the data warehouse. You do not do that on a record and field level. It really is on a higher abstraction level. We have like 12 data domains, and there you can take all 12, and you can take a subset of them. Based on that, we create the data model in the warehouse. These are all star schemas, and on top of that, we have a semantic layer that translates the fields into names that you're familiar with, because they are the same names that we're also using in data sets and workbooks there, again, moving into that direction. And then, you know, we come with out-of-the-box visualizations, and you can build your own visualizations too. So in this case, let me start the demo. What we do is we look at our CRM pipeline. We look at the breakdown of opportunities here in the pie chart, and we basically look into how many have we won, how many have we lost, and how many are still in progress. That's what you see here, and we can also see that on our month by month view here and down there. And what we see is basically that the number of lost opportunities is increasing, which is not good. So we would like to figure out why that is. The first thing we will do is we will try to use. We're looking into, you know, is it new customers or renewals? And we see that at least April, May, and June, we have an increase of customers that we wanted to renew that haven't renewed and ultimately churned. So one thing we'll do now is, based on the data that we'll have, we will start a prediction to see will this trend continue in July. What we are doing there is we're creating our prediction model. In this case, we are using a random forest model. We are building a data flow that tells us which data should we take, what should we apply, on what should we apply, on what field should we apply that specific model on, and a couple of other parameters. As I said, this is really something for advanced users who have machine learning knowledge, who are familiar with what are the strengths and weaknesses of models, like in this case, random forest versus a k-means and others that we are supporting. So there is a bunch of parameters that we can send, that we can set and play around with. And after we've defined the model for the forecast, we can create a visualization, which we have already done. And for July, we actually see that on the pie chart, for new customers, we predict that we will lose 68%, and for renewals, we will lose close to 32%, which is a pretty big churn and actually quite concerning. So what we want to do is we would like to cluster now the data, and we would like to see if we can figure out what's going on. So this is what the prediction is telling us in terms of winning and losing renewals and new customers. But just going through this table will not give us, a really meaningful answer on what's going on. So that's where we will use a different model, a clustering algorithm. In this case, the k-means that I mentioned before. If we look at it again, we can, for example, define how many clusters we want. In this case, 4. How many iterations we run this algorithm, and ultimately then apply that model to a visualization and to a data set. The data set is the deals closed. And once we do that, we will create the best visualization that Oracle gives us. These are the 4 clusters. The 2 in the middle are hard to distinguish. They're close by. But these are the 2 clusters. This one is, the biggest outlier, as it is the furthest from the center in both directions. We can mark it, we can filter on it, and we can give us a description. So in this case, this cluster here, it just told us, the opportunity type is renewal, the status is closed lost. It was an implementation partner, and the implementation partner was DHI partner in that case, not a real one, a fictitious one. We don't have any implementation partner with that name. So what it tells us now is that if the implementation partner was that specific partner, there's a very high likelihood of renewals not happening, and maybe we need to reach out to partner management and just figure out what's going on there. Maybe they need additional training, but definitely customers are not happy with the implementation, and therefore are not renewing. So this is some of the really advanced stuff where we can use machine learning, where we can use models like forecasting and clustering on NetSuite data to figure out what's going on in the system. Cool, and that's it. A bit more than 5 minutes, but I hope it was worth it.
Thanks very much for the condensed version of that. In maybe one sentence, what would be the biggest move going to from Suite Analytics to Data Warehouse?
I think the important stages I would recommend customers to be in is A, they want to merge data from various sources, right? It could be, you have your finance data and your sales data in NetSuite. You might use Salesforce, for your opportunities. You might use your Shopify or Amazon as e-commerce, and you would like to analyze across all these data sources. So that's where data warehouse makes sense, right? I know there are many data warehouses out there. The thing that we did easy for you is to automatically get the data from NetSuite into the data warehouse in the right way, shape, or form. So you're not starting with a blanket data warehouse and you need to create all your tables, etc. yourself. The other two advantages are data snapshots, because the data we have in NetSuite is usually real time, and you want to, for example, see how did the inventory levels in my actual warehouse change over time, or how did my CRM pipeline change over time. It's very hard to do purely on NetSuite data. We have the snapshotting capability on a daily basis. The data gets pushed into the data warehouse, and you can really do a timeline analysis on how certain things are changing. And then, of course, some things we've showed here, the visualizations and algorithmic advantages that we have with OSC. Of course, also something that goes above and beyond than what we offer with dataset workbooks, saved searches, etc., etc. So once you reach that level that you feel you've reached a point where what you are getting out of the box with NetSuite is not sufficient anymore, and you have outgrown that, that's where I would say, let's have a look at the analytics warehouse. And this is, again, the analytics warehouse and Connect, these are the two things that have separate additional license. Everything else I've talked about is included as within the base license of NetSuite.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. That was great. That was a great overview. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate that.
Thank you all.
All right, Darcy, we maybe have 5 minutes, 10 minutes for your overview on reports or a quick customer spotlight.
Yeah, I will try to be fast. I don't think there's much there anyway. So let me just share my screen.
Don't underestimate. Come on.
Really
value.
Well, I say that only because we are. So I'm Darcy. I'm the Darcy Vanny. I'm the CFO of Crawford Technologies. We're a software company. We focus on the banking and insurance industries. We have had NetSuite since August 2018, and we're pretty simple. We don't have a lot of customizations. We use One World Financials. What I was going to show you guys today is our how we segment out our sales. So before we had NetSuite, so you guys can see my screen okay, right?
Yeah.
So before we had NetSuite, we basically tried to put everything in our P&L. So we had I can't remember how many line items just for revenue, but ultimately we sell software. We have a bunch of different items. We weren't even separating it out by item, but we were separating it out in these 4 ways based on geographic region, the use case, the type of software that we were selling, and the bill to tier. We only had, and like this list here this is from the NetSuite native report, sales by customer summary. And so this was basically all of this used to be in our P&L until we started segmenting it out. And once we got NetSuite, we found that no one was even looking at it at this level of detail. So every month, this is the reports that we send out, and it's based on the segmentations here. So we do it by use case, geographic region. It's all the same data, pulling it by product line, what kind it is, that we drill down even deeper by industry, and channel. And then one thing that came important to us in the last maybe 3 years is when we look at our subscription license sales, was how we're what type of license subscription or where the customer is in the life cycle. So whether or not it's so this is a custom field that we had to add, whether the subscription license is a brand new license that we've never had before, whether it's a renewal, so the initial term has expired, and whether it's in its current term. And so this became a new segmentation that we had. So this is a drill down from the original report that which one was it? From our license type, wherever that one was. So that's how we segment it out. And this is the report that we send out every month. And this is what people find in our company, how they read it and what they're looking for. And we found no one ever looks at it at this level of detail anymore. And so just a few things on the report and how I have it set up. So there are some custom fields, or some I have some calculations in here, which is growth. Which is what we're looking for. So it's just the growth year over year, and then we have month over month. And that is that's just it, and that's a very simple formula to add, where it's just comparing the two. You just have to pick what kind of mine was a percent difference of y over x, and you have to just define what's x and what's y. Another important thing, another one that I use a lot of when I'm doing another feature that I use a lot of when I'm doing reports is the grouping. So if you look at that list that I've showed you, which was something that you could throw it into Excel and throw a pivot table to view everything is grouping. And we group, and even ungrouping becomes important when we're looking at our customer data. If we have a customer that has 3 end users under it, for example, if you throw that into Excel, it can sometimes mess up your reports. You have to do extra work in Excel to get it there. But if you just hit the grouping, just that report that I showed you before that had 50 lines, you can look at it like this, where there's only 3, depending on what kind of grouping you want. And then there was another really cool thing that I wanted to, and then the dates as well that I've chosen. So when I run these reports every month, I never have to select the dates at the bottom, though I have selected them here, because I use the relative to today's date, and then there's a bunch of different selectors that you can use for dates. And mine that I have is this fiscal year to last period, or previous months this fiscal year, and then I use previous months last fiscal year. So every time I'm looking at it from to the end of last month. And I do still change the dates, because when you export it, these dates down here do show up on the report. And then another really cool thing with reporting that I just learned, like very recently, I came across it by accident when I was doing a P&L report. Because when I'm sending out my P&L reports externally, I'm usually sending them some version of this, or I'm pushing this button to collapse it all. And then when I shoot it out into Excel, though, all of these lines are still showing up. They're just hidden. And then what I was doing for a while, since 2018, until maybe a month or 2 ago, was I was then going into NetSuite, into Excel, and deleting all the hidden lines, because I didn't want external people to see it. What I didn't realize was that you can collapse it entirely, so that when you export it, those lines are completely gone. And I found that completely by accident when I was on the edit layout field in the customization, and I clicked on income, and I saw that there's 3 different ways. There's expanded and collapsed, and then there's cannot expand. So this report is the cannot expand. So you can't even in here, you can't even click on it to see the detail in it. But when you export it, those lines aren't there. They're not hidden at all. And so that's the very fast monthly reporting that we do. So we used to spend probably half a day at least getting our sales reports out. And now we do it this way, and it's all the information that everybody needs in the way that everyone consumes it. And I also should mention that I'm using my release preview as my sandbox, as Mark said at the very start, of a great way to get a free sandbox, because we're way too cheap to pay for it.
That's awesome, Darcy. And that's a great tip there too, about the expanded or not expanded. That's really cool. Because I worry about that too, right? You want to send it out, but you don't want everybody to dissect everybody else's division of sales or whatever, right? That's really good, smart.
Yeah, it took me 5 years to find that.
Awesome. Well, I know we're at the top of the hour. It's 12 o'clock. This is all being recorded, so we will have it on the ONSUG website. Expect that to be up there next week. We didn't leave a lot of time for questions, but I'm a little open right now for the next 10, 15 minutes if we do have any questions. And if you do need to drop off, thank you very much for joining today. I hope you got a lot out of it. Please answer the poll before you go. So I'll open up the floor. If anybody has questions, just unmute yourself and ask away. And don't be shy. Is that Michael from Blue Memento on the call today? Looks like it is. To see his presentation, go to our ONSUG website. We have, they were our sponsor, I think, in our last session that we had. All right, if there's no questions, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks very much again for your time, and we will see you in the near future. Okay, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.